Good morning, gamers. Welcome to my video recapping my Regional Championship Dallas experience. If you missed it, check out the live stream. I try to stream some days at twitch.tv/livedead. I went over this live, VOD didn't save. So, we're back here doing coverage on a video. So let's check it out. If you weren't aware, at RC Dallas, I played Esper midrange / Esper aggro. Here's my deck list. Going over just, I suppose, some of the interesting deck decisions. One Gix's command, I think I could have done without this card, but it was fine. When it was good, it was good. And when it wasn't, it wasn't. Virtue of Loyalty, I had 3 of. I felt that was really good. I liked having 3. I would do it again. The one Gix was awesome. 2 Tidebinder's main was also great, with 2 more in the sideboard. I think at the current stated format, you should be playing, if you're playing Esper, you should probably be playing 4 of this card in some combination between board and not board. 3 Preacher, this could be Wedding Announcement. I liked Preacher more. My teammates liked Wedding Announcement more. I was happy with Preacher. Going over the day, so round 1, I played the Mirror, got the Mirror. I think I was just a little bit more knowledgeable of our deck, and I think I just had better draws than my opponent. Round 2, played against Azorius Control. Things didn't go super great for me. I'm not good at playing against the control deck, right? I struggle personally. I like being the control player, so when I play against control, I have a hard time like parsing the timing on my spells, because I don't know, I'm a jammer, and jamming you can't always do against control. It's weird, and things just happen. Round 3, played against blue-black mid. I don't think this is as good as Esper. I thought it was an interesting choice. My opponent brought it. I asked them, like, kind of afterwards, like, hey, why not play Esper? They're like, oh, the mana's better for Dimir. And I'm like, well, kind of, yeah, I guess, but, like, not really, because Esper has, like, all the fast lands it needs. It has a bunch of good dual lands. It's fine. Like, in Dimir, you get to play, I think my opponent was playing Mirexes and stuff. Yeah, they had 4 Mirex in their deck, which I don't like. I don't like that in my mid-range deck, but that's just me. Round after that, I played against Golgari mid. Got Golgari pretty easily. I personally feel like Golgari is a very good matchup for Esper. Maybe I'm insane, but I really like the matchup. I have no problems. I very frequently win against Golgari. I have no problem with it. So for me, I was like, all right, sweet. Got a quick matchup against Golgari. My opponent's deck was pretty cool. They were running like a Topiary Stomper and Tortoise, I think, to go with their Grizzly build. But I don't think that was super strong. But hey, you know, whatever worked for them. Round 5 was probably the first heartbreaker round I had, where I was playing against Dimir Reanimator. A deck that has kind of seen play, but like has fallen off because, you know, you have cards like Rest in Peace. Danik is very good against this card. Like, again, this feels like a great matchup for me, and unfortunately, I just couldn't quite get there. Like, game 1 went exactly how I expected it to go. To be fair, my opponent was missing land drop, so it was kind of free low. But our game 2, like, I think we both just hit a ton of lands, weren't doing anything. And so I ended up losing to a flipped Rona plus like 2 Restless Reef attacks, which is, you know, it is what it is. And then our game 3 was like our game 3, my hand was immaculate. I had 2 bats, a Denic, I think a Tishana's and like 2 lands, and it was great. Like, hand was perfect. You know, Denic stops them from reenacting things. It stops them from push-pulling things. Like, it doesn't breach the multiverse, but whatever. I bat them, took one of their early removal spells. I bat them again, took like I think a Collector's Vault, just something that like gets them going. And I also saw that they were kind of land light, and then I played Denic. So like, I have kind of a clock. You know, like I'm doing stuff, and then I kid you not, I drew literally all lands the rest of the game. But what am I gonna do, right? That's Magic. That's gonna happen. And so as I'm drawing all lands, my opponent's drawing all lands, they're building up to a breach of the multiverse. I'm building up to nothing, and I'm trying to kill them as fast as possible. Like, it sucks. And then I lose. They cast breach of the multiverse, started like, and they got my Rafine and I think a Shieldred. I had like 2 turns. Got them down to like 4 or 5 life. Actually, I can check. Them down to 6 life. Yes, 6 life. Our game 3. And like I killed my own Rafine that they had breached back. They had a Shelly in play, and that like I was trying to kill them with fires. That was like my goal. I think I had maybe an Anchorage in play too, and the next turn they either hard cast or like bought back an Atraxa. They played Conspiracy Unraveler, which allows them to collect evidence 10 rather than pay the casting cost for their spells. So they like started collecting evidence, cast another breach. Like it was just going through the motions. I could never win, so I scooped him up, and that's kind of how round 5 went. After that, I played Jeskai Convoke, which is probably worse than regular Convoke. They have access to Spyglass Siren and Spell Pierce, which I think are literally the only 2 blue cards in their main deck. They have 0 of the War Leader's Call, which I've come to realize is a really, really good card for the deck, especially against Esper. So seeing 0 copies of my opponent's list was kind of crazy. They also then only had 1 Disdainful Stroke in Protected Negotiators. Yeah, I don't know. Kind of weird decision. It's like my opponent wanted to maybe play Blue-White Soldiers, but got told Convoke was a better white-based aggro deck. I don't know, but yeah, rooting your mana base for 4 total, or well, I guess 8 total blue spells, probably not worth it. But it was a fun matchup nonetheless. Round 7 was really interesting. So my opponent was on 4-color Legends, which I think is supposed to be a bad matchup. I think I lost game 1 pretty quick. Check that. I lost game 1 pretty quick to like Takenuma and stuff. Whatever. I don't know. The matchup's hard, but games 2 and 3. So 2, I had an early Rest in Peace, and my opponent had 4 Takenumas in hand, which just does not work. Like you can't Takenuma through a Rest in Peace, which is awesome. So they had a pretty bad draw, and like they were getting pretty, I think, visibly frustrated. After they scooped game 2, like as we're shuffling up for game 3, my opponent's like shaking their head, 17 minutes left. And I'm like, okay, 17 minutes, let's go. And then kind of game 3 went similarly. Like they had Slowgurk and they had like a bunch of they had 2 Slowgurks and like Channel Lands. They're kind of like playing Slowgurk, doing Channel Landy things. Not Otawara, notably. They only found 1 Otawara, which is like their best card. I had Tishana's, a Rona at some point during that game, and so they were like Slowgurk, like Takenuma or whatever. I think cycle some lands, make Slowgurk huge, attack for a bunch. Next, like play another Slowgurk. Legend rule their 1 Slowgurk, pick all the lands, blah 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 blah, things and stuff. They're just like spinning their wheels. And on turn like 4 or 5, like I went 2-drop Rafine, and then I went like either Shieldred on turn 4 or 5, and I'm just like, well, we can do the song and dance all day. I'm gonna keep jamming, and it's gonna be pretty awesome. So I just kept attacking them and lowering the life total. I then like found a Rest in Peace by turn 7 or 8, and like go Rest in Peace, and they were like, "Yep, we're done." And that was fun. I had a good time. After that, was a heartbreaker round. I played against Mono Black Burn, which this deck was wild because like they were based around this Rush of Dread and Bloodletter of Aclazotz combo, where you can essentially cause your opponents to lose all of their life, right? You play this on turn 4, then you Rush of Dread spree, they lose half their life, it's doubled because of Bloodletter, you die. But it doesn't seem very good, and it doesn't seem very good against Esper particularly, where I have main deck counter spells. I have a bunch of removal to make sure their bloodletters aren't sticking around, right? So on paper, I think this is a good matchup, and I think it is a good matchup. However, I did lose. I got rather unlucky, I would say. Like one of our games, I just like didn't do anything. I wish I could remember specifically. For me, game 3 sticks out the most in my mind, where I was in a very commanding board position, but I hadn't like found any go for the throats or anything, and so they just had a bloodletter in play, and I'm like, whatever. I had like 2 bats going, so I stripped apart their hand. They were on 4 lands, and I knew they had a Rush of Dread in hand, but like, what can I do? You know, I haven't found a removal, so I can't kill their thing. And I'm sitting on a Disdainful Stroke in my hand, because I made the decision to bring in Disdainful Strokes, because to me it seemed like all the spells that I cared about countering were going to be Bloodletter of Aclazotz, Shieldred the Apocalypse, a bigger cast Harvester of Mystery. You know, so I'm like, whatever. I'll just counter the things I care about, and it'll be fine. I have removal for all their smaller shitters. I also thought that the way Spree worked was kind of like, you know, adding mana value to the card, and I didn't realize that it worked exactly like Kicker, because everything's Kicker, and this is just Kicker. So on turn 5, 7, 8, I don't know, my opponent had been missing a ton of land drops. My opponent has their Bloodletter in play, and they hit their 5th land, and they go Rush of Dread, cause them to lose life, and I'm like, counter it with Disdainful Stroke, and then like they were about to move it to the graveyard, and then my opponent was like, wait, I don't think that's how that works. This only costs 3. And I'm like, huh? So we called the judge over. Judge was like, yeah, this spell only costs 3. You're just kicking it. Which, it's kind of dumb that like these spree cards and like kicker cards are like sprees you like can't cast without kicker, right? Like spells that have kicker, like they're optional, right? The kicker isn't always part of the cost. But these spells are literally like Rush of Dread. You can never Disdainful Stroke this. Even if they cast it for 8 mana and use all the abilities, it's still a 3 mana spell. And you also can't cast them without paying spree. So like it's literally anti-Disdainful Stroke. I should have brought in negates over Disdainful Strokes. I'm dumb. I was wrong. I lost because of it. And that sucks. And that's how I picked up my 3rd loss. So now I am X-3 heading into round 9. I'm 5-3. I have to win this match if I want to go to day 2. And this is my first RC. So going into this whole thing, making day 2 was all I wanted to do, right? I mean, obviously, I want to win the thing. I want to do well. I want to make top 8. I want to make some money. But like, as my first RC, I really wanted to make day 2. I've never done it. I played at 2 GPs when I was like 17. I did terrible. I went 4-5 on my first one, and then I went 3-6 on my second one. Like, granted, I was not nearly as good or whatever. But so the one accomplishment I had done all day, the one thing that I had successfully managed to do was dodge Temur. Temur Analyst, I felt like was my worst matchup by a lot. And I dodged it all day. I think those guys were stuck in the draw bracket, so it was great. And then we get to round 9. My opponent hands me their deck list, and I look at it, and it says Temur Analyst. Ah, fuck, man. In that exact moment, I very vividly remember having the thought, okay, I can either lay down and take my beatings, or I can nut up, and I can take this game by the balls and win it. And that's what I chose to do. I chose to try to win it. Game 1, I did exactly my game plan. I got onto the board quick. I was beating them down. I had really good Tidebinders to counter the grass, and I think my opponent drew fairly poorly. And I crushed them. It was great. Game 2, the Temur players play this juke plan where they bring in like Thrund, Roxanne, Titan of Industry, post board to like, you know, go less hard on their combo aspect and more hard on the, I guess also Doppelgang, and more hard on the aspect of like just beating you down and being a Temur like rampy big stuff deck. It's probably good. I personally don't know how much I think that is good. But I'm also not a team player, so who am I to judge? But this is their plan. That's their plan. I didn't know what the card Thrun said, and so when my opponent cast on turn 5, I'm like, okay, I can't counter it, whatever. I think I had a no more lives, but I was like, meh, whatever. It's just a 5/5. I can race a 5/5. I didn't draw super well, and so then they're attacking me with their 5/5, and I'm like, okay, well, I have the option to double block here and like still leave a thing in play, so I'm going to do that. I double block. My opponent's like, okay, let's go to damage, and I'm like, all right, damage, everything dies. And my opponent's like, Thrun has indestructible, and I'm like, oh, so it does. That card has indestructible on their turn. Oh, well, that's bad. So I was like, well, okay, let's go to the next game. Notably, I also like had to talk to the judge for a second to see if I could target it with channel lands, because I had an Iganjo and an Otawara, but you can't because lands are colorless, right? They're colorless abilities. However, that doesn't mean that still applies to being non-green. They have to be specifically green. So you know, you got me. It's fine. And then our game 3, I was doing my thing. I was doing my thing pretty well. My opponent like was doing some Shigeki shenanigans, just like trying to stave off their life total. And I was drawing hot fire game 3. I had like 2 Tashanas to counter the reflexive trigger off of Ill-Timed Explosion. I think countered I countered a couple Nissa triggers to make Nissa useless, and like towards the end of the game, I cast a deep counter to that. You know, my opponent had I think 1 or 2 cards in hand. It was a Shigeki and a mystery card. Those were the 2 cards I had in hand. And they go, okay, well I'm gonna channel Shigeki, buy back, you know, blah, blah, blah. They're like picking things out of their graveyard, and I was like, I'm just gonna Tishana's that. And they're like, oh, okay. And they picked up they just left their graveyard, you know, alone. I took their last card in their hand, which was Thrun, which had gotten me game 2, so you know, fuck you, Thrun. That was revenge. And then like their next turn, they're on no cards in hand, right? I have lethal in play. They're at like 2 or 3 life, and they're like, all right, well, 11 mana flashback deluge, and I'm like, okay. I think they had copied it with Galvanic Iteration. So they were like, they didn't flash. I'm sorry. They memory deluged, then cast Galvanic Iteration, then cast Ill-Timed Explosion, drew their 2, discarded a Virtue, and I was like, 4th Tidebinder to counter that reflexive ability. And they're like, all right, resolve regular Virtue, or not Virtue, resolve regular Ill-Time. They sat there for a second looking at their cards and extended the hand, baby. We made day 2, first RC. Let's go. I was pumped. I did my goal, right? At the end of the day, I made it. I made day 2 at 6-3. 6-3 makes it. Maybe, you know, in the lower standings, but that's a score that makes it. And I was hyped as fuck. I felt really, really good about how I played day 1. You know, like 2 of my 3 losses on day 1, I want to attribute mostly to like Magic variants, right? They weren't even like bad matchups for me. I think they were good matchups that variants got me in the end. Micro decisions, you know, having negates over disdainful strokes post board, but like it's mono black burn. Who, you know, I hadn't play tested against this. I wasn't guaranteed on what was supposed to be the pick, but it was fine. You know, so you know, going into day 2. Feeling good. At this point in the day, it is like 10:30, 11 o'clock-ish at night, and I'm like, all right, I want to go back to my hotel. I want to go to bed, and I want to like just be prepared for tomorrow. Because at this point, I'm like, I'm live for the Pro Tour. I want to go to the Pro Tour. So we head home. Me and my brother and my buddy head to Whataburger. We have some garbage-ass sandwiches. They were great. Love eating shitty, greasy food at midnight. The next morning, I get sat down in the car, and as I'm getting dropped off at the convention hall, I get out, you know, so I get out of the car, my phone, right? My phone goes, and I'm like, where'd my phone go? Oh, there my phone is. And then I watch as the car comes. I'm like, Oh fuck. As my head's down, I hear another car coming. I look up. Crunch, crunch. Oh no, man. It's fucked. It's absolutely fucked. The screen is completely shattered. It doesn't turn on. I had my smartwatch with me, so I was like texting off of that, telling everybody, hey, I don't have a phone anymore. I can only use my watch to text. You know, talk to this person if you need me. And so that was fucked up. But at the end of the day, I got Magic in play, right? So I can't think about it too much. I got to go do Magic. So I take off. I go sit down, you know, and now I'm like hovering by the paper pairings board waiting for my match to get posted. And I get, yay, Convoke. I love playing against Convoke decks because it's a good matchup for me. I like my good matchups. And like game one, they got me because they did the Convoke thing. You know, like turn 2 Knight Errant, and then okay, you got me. They went fast. But for game 2, I was on the play. Felt really good. I just kind of did my thing. I had like 2 virtues. I cast, so I got like, you know, those guys were early blockers. I got the value out of like my opponent not respecting me having the virtue, which is always nice. When they, you know, attack with their 1/1s or 1/2s, and then I'm like virtue block, and like, it's great. It's a great feeling. Interestingly, my opponent's deck list has some cool cards like Ultec Matterweaver, which is like this card from Caverns of Ixalan that like, it seems cool. I don't think it's good in the deck because it's like slow, and I think the deck wants to be faster. Yeah, that card was cool. 2 Evangelist was probably not great, but meh. Yeah, and then so I got them game 2 with like my virtues, and then game 3 was really, really close, like really close. I was at 7 life, and they had an Evangelist, the Bats, and then I think like just a random 1/1 in play. And I knew my opponent had a Soken's-On in hand, and I'm like running the numbers. I'm like, okay, so they channel Soken's-On next turn, they attack me with everything, and then I Tishana's the Battle Cry trigger. What happens? I'm like, I still die. I take like 8 damage or something. Oh, they had a assault case as well, so like all their guys were like decently setted. And I'm like, okay, how can I win here? And maybe it was obvious to some people, but I remember tanking for like 2-3 minutes, thinking about I think it was before my attacks because I needed to know like, you know, how I would survive. And then I was like, wait, I have a Tidebinder. I can just Tidebinder Soken's-On. And so I did. I, you know, attacked with all my guys and my thing. It passed to their turn. They're sitting there thinking, and like best thing they could have done, channel Soken's-On, boom, Tidebinder. They swing out, I block their biggest guy. I go to 1, untap and attack for lethal. Yes! Start off great. Got a dub. And then finally, for my last match, I sit down and play against Golgari. This isn't the last match of the day, of course, but it was my last match because I lost. This was a very, very, very frustrating loss for me. As I said earlier, I think Golgari is a good matchup. I know people say it's supposed to be a bad matchup for Esper. I don't think so. I think it's a good matchup. And I felt like I was gonna, you know, do well. My opening hand, game 1, was really interesting. It was 2 Darkseid Shores, Fairy Mastermind, Tishana Tidebinder, Preacher of the Schism, and I think like a Go for the Throat or Cut Down. Which, like, yeah, it's all blue and black spells. I don't have any white mana, but I also don't have any white cards. So, like, I can play the blue-black game for a while, right? I mean, I can cast all the cards in my hand with 1 land. So this will be fine. My next 2 draws were Virtue of Loyalty into No More Lies, which does nothing. And then I drew Otawara, which, okay, now I can cast my Preacher now at least. That's good. And then I drew a Rafine, another Virtue, and then a Shipwreck Marsh. And at this point in the game, you know, my opponent had a pretty good hand. They were like casting their spells. They had both their colors of mana. So, you know, they killed all my guys. And at this point, I couldn't do anything. So I ended up losing to the Esper not having white mana, like, and not drawing a ton of lands, which it's okay. Like, all right, I'm brushing it off. You know, we got games 2 and 3 to go, and I'll feel pretty good. I still feel good about the matchup. Game 2, draw my opening 7, 1 lander. All right, well that's not gonna get there. Ship it, ship the hand, Go to 6. 6 card hand. 0 lander. Well, I gotta go to 5. Right, you can't. I'm not gonna not play a game. My 5 card hand was Restless Anchorage, Seachrome Coast, Island, and then I had a No More Lies and a Preacher. I don't remember what I bought them, but it was probably like not good cards. It definitely wasn't. Like I think it was like maybe another No More Lies and something else. Anyway, I drew Denick into Dark Schlick. So like I had really good draws and like I kind of got the game started, and then I just like whiffed on anything from there on out. My opponent had a really good green-black draw game too, and so I lost. At that point, I had gone over to my teammate. I was like, hey, you know, am I even live for like anything top 64? They're like, no, your BT dreams are dead. All right. I'm mad after I'm gonna keep it. I was mad. I was really mad actually because I felt like that throughout this weekend, a lot of my losses were just variance when it comes down to it, right? To be fair, I should acknowledge that a lot of my wins were probably because of variance. Most likely, and assuredly, they were because of variance, right? I got very lucky. I had a few spots where I did play well. You know, it's frustrating when it's like, oh well, I'm losing because you know my deck didn't cooperate, and that's just gonna happen when you play a lot of Magic. It's just gonna seem like when it's all congested into like a 48 hour time frame that like these bad moments stick with me at least better than the good moments. And so I had a lot of like frustration like in that moment where I'm like, wow, really I have 3 losses because of getting screwed on lands. There's micro decisions in there. Maybe I could have multi-4 that game 2 against Golgari. You know, the negate over Disdainful Stroke was relevant. But at the end of the day, you know, it's been a few days now. These are all learning points, right? I'm learning what I can do better and how I can do better. And so that was the end of my run. I went 7-4 overall, that's good. That's a number I'm proud to share, to be honest. Like, yeah, I went 7-4 at my first RC. I don't think that's bad. You know, yeah, I didn't top 64. Yeah, I didn't qualify for the Pro Tour, but that's pretty good, right? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not upset about that. I like that. I could have played more. I dropped after my 11th round. I should have played more. There's a chance that somehow I get like a pass down invite or whatever. It was not likely. I had to win out from there as well. Like with my phone being broken, also my kid. It was my brother's birthday that day, who I had brought for his birthday. So I like also had that writing. I was like, I should go hang out with my brother. I should definitely get my phone fixed. And so I chose a draw, but like the frustration from that loss, it being my brother's birthday and my phone being broken, those were all kind of like the culmination of. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go deal with that and stop playing Magic. And I think Holy is probably the best decision for me. You know, if I played another table and lost, who knows? Maybe I would have slammed the table out of frustration and then proceeded to get disqualified and kicked out of the event hall. But anyway, so yeah, at the end of the day, I really don't have anything to say other than I'm proud of how I did. I'm glad that I had my testing teammates that I did have. They were all awesome. Yeah, really enjoyed spending time with my teammates leading up to the event. Enjoyed hanging out with them during the event. I felt that we had solid testing. I enjoyed being part of the team. And I'm already qualified for DC. So in DC, we're probably just gonna run it back and have a good event run. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching. Please tune into my stream. I'm live at twitch.tv/livedead, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday-ish, and I hope to see you there. Stay tuned for more videos. I'm hoping to do this more often and kind of just cover Magic. All right, thanks. Bye.